Hey everyone, and welcome to our very first episode, the maiden voyage of our podcast, Caution, Wide Right. It's just another trucking podcast, and I'm excited to introduce our guest, John Irwin, CEO of CNS, the compliance experts helping trucking companies and professional drivers navigate through all the safety and compliance regulations from the United States and Canada. We are going to chat about how all of this got started, CNS, the growing pains, the people that making it happen, and more. And if you've ever started your own business or ever plan to, especially a trucking company, there's a lot of great information that we'll cover that you can take away from this. John, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, rapid fire, Kenworth or Peterbilt?
Peterbilt.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Wrong, Dr. Pepper. Which was better, Top Gun or Top Gun Maverick?
Top Gun Maverick.
Chick-fil-A or Raising Cane's?
Raising Cane's.
Favorite beer?
Well, I'm from Pennsylvania, so lager, Yingling.
TA or Pilot?
Pilot.
Frank's Hot Sauce or Texas Pete?
Depending on what I put it on, but I'll go with Frank's Hot Sauce.
The dentist or colonoscopy?
Dentist.
CB handle?
Hammer the Granny.
Name of your first girlfriend?
Not going to answer that.
Oh, man. All right, well, to kick it off, what did you do before you got into the trucking industry?
Well, in my younger days, I did a lot of different things. Work in a warehouse, managed restaurants. What I did for a long time was I went around for a chain restaurant and fixed their unprofitable or broken, what we call broken restaurants, change them around, turn them around, hand them off to another manager, and move on to the next one.
Awesome. For you guys out there, I'm sure you guys heard of Parks and Rec. This is exactly what this reminds me of. Adam Scott, Rob Lowe coming into town, fixing the government. That's what you did. I'm curious. So obviously food industry, customer service is a big deal. Customers are always right. What are some of the other lessons that you can sort of take away from your time in the food industry?
Yeah, the restaurant industry was great, to start out in the restaurant field, to learn a lot of lessons. And one of the things was being adaptable, and multitasking was huge for me. Obviously, with you working here, that I hire a lot of restaurant people because they have great qualities. From being able to work in high pressured, high fast environments, exactly, to multitasking and not flinching on that is huge. And customer service, exactly. Like that's what we built this whole company off of is, providing for our clients and providing with a smile. Nowadays, you don't get that, as much. I remember when that was a huge focus for a lot of companies. Now it's just, you get what you get. And that's not what it is with us.
Right. And so I believe you were in the food industry, and that's when you were starting to transition to starting the company, CNS. I'm curious, you're in the food industry, thinking about starting a company. What was that like? What was that process for you?
Yeah. Well, it was obviously, I had a young family at the time. I had a wife and a kid on the way, a child on the way. And, trucking, my father-in-law got me into trucking. From the time I was dating my wife to learning that and, trying out milk hauling and different things in the trucking industry. I always liked that. But what we were thinking about buying was the notary auto tag business. And
so I'm from the West Coast. I don't know what a notary was. I especially know it as a DMV. Is that similar, different?
So yeah, I mean, notarizing documents, that's one thing, but in Pennsylvania, it goes a bigger, and a lot of states have what they would outsource the DMV. In Pennsylvania, that's a big thing, and notary and auto tags do that. And my father was the first customer of Carolyn's Notary and auto tags back, I forget, early 2000s or whatnot. And he did a lot of trucking and was always registering vehicles and whatnot with Carolyn. And she decided that she wanted to retire and put it up for sale. And he thought that this was a good opportunity for me to own my own business. Because that's always what I've always dreamed of, was to own my own company. I was kind of typecasted in the restaurant field, meaning I was so good at what I did that moving up just didn't seem like it was going to happen. I got passed over numerous times for people that didn't do what I do, and because, I was good at it. I changed, I think it was 5 different restaurants, made them profitable. Again, it takes about a year's time to do that. And I was like, I got to do something else. And I can't keep traveling all around, Pennsylvania or whatnot. I got to do something good, with my family. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to explore this notary and auto tag business. And we purchased it, and then we expanded it.
That's awesome. And starting a business, I know it's always difficult. In fact, if you start a new business, I think the known figure is 1 in 10 succeeds after like the first year or two. Obviously, you're taking over an established company, but what was it like that first year, or while you were thinking about starting the company? Did you have naysayers out there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. From people that worked in the restaurant business, I'm not saying my family was naysaying, but obviously they're worried for you because you're making a leap of faith. I'm one of the first people in my family that had their own, business. So I can see where their points were like
caution.
Yeah, caution on this. And it's hard too when they don't understand what a notary auto tag business is. Are you sure this is a good idea? You got a young family and whatnot. They were very supportive, don't get me wrong. Right. They were very supportive. But I know they were all worried in the back of their mind, like, what are they doing? And naysayers, though, from people at my restaurant job, and, why would you want to do that? That fed, the fire to do well and to build it. And, I like naysayers.
Oh, totally. A part of starting a business is all about relationships too. So as you were getting started, were there some of those, I don't know, whether it's business partners, other relationships that you had that, whether it helped you grow in the industry, the business, you personally?
Mm-hmm. Again, if you're a trucker and you want to go start your own business, take some of this advice and find great partners. Find a banking partner that's going to work with you and want to understand your business. Because believe me, there's banks out there that say that they're company friendly and they want to help you start, but don't really put the effort in. I mean, I have one bank that specifically, told me I was going to fail and that it wasn't profitable and whatnot, but obviously didn't go with that bank. And, now as we're a lot bigger, they want our business, but they'll never get my business because don't tell me I'm going to fail. So.
Totally. And so the notary business, tags, licensing, was there, we're now very heavily in the trucking industry. Was the notary have its foothold in the trucking industry when it was started too?
Yeah. So the notary auto tag business was doing a lot of registration for trucking clients in Pennsylvania. They did fuel taxes as well. That was the 2 things that she did prior to my time. And when I got in there, again, I had, some of that trucking background. I love transportation, and all kinds of transportation, whether it's trucking, airplanes, railroad, boats. I love it all. And I had some of that, background in that trucking when I started talking to these single owner operators or guys with smaller fleets and listening to their pain points. And, when it came to drug consortium, driver files, just the FMCSA in general and all the things that they had to keep track of. Back then, 2010, CSA 2010 was coming out and a lot of rules and regulation changes. So that was very important for them to make sure that they stay in compliant. And surprisingly to me, I really took into the 49 CFR, which is the federal regulations, and really understood them. And I went out and trained as much as I could. I was out in Oklahoma with the FMCSA and doing hazmat training and stuff like that, and just learned as much as I could. Also with that background of trucking a little bit in the transportation, I was able to start services that can help those current clients, and then we started growing and building from there.
Yeah, and for those who are unaware, CNS from the notary side, now doing everything: DOT training, insurance, occupational health, consortium management, everything really on that safety and compliance side. Now, Many sharp-eyed viewers out there might know that I look like a corporate boy, probably don't have a CDL, but John, you've had your CDL for a long time, and I'm curious, what was it like getting your CDL then versus like some of the CDL rules and regulations today, that process today?
Oh yeah, a lot different than what you would have to go through today. My father-in-law was a big inspiration for me to get my CDL, and he started out milk hauling, and I tried that little route and did other things. But he trained me as much as he could on private time. I had another gentleman, his name is Dale Livingood, to help me as well and take that time to train me. So I was personally trained. I never went through a school or anything like that. But definitely when you could do that, I wouldn't say that I was undertrained, but there was things that I was behind on compared to somebody that went to a school or something like a third party training center or something like that. But I learned fast, so it was different. Now what we do is we train to make sure that our trainees are actually ready to drive a CDL truck for any corporation. And we do that training one-on-one. When I used to go, my cousin went kind of through a school. I heard some of his stuff that he went through. I watched some of the schools do their things where they have multiple people in the truck, and you're taking turns driving a truck. And I always thought, like, there has to be a better way. I'm a very hands-on person. So if I am sitting, in the background and there's 4 other people doing this hands-on, I'm not paying attention. I mean, most people are going to be that same way. And I was like, that's a waste of time. So I was working with Joel and Graham, who's the vice president of our driver training center. And I said, we got to develop a better way for this. My father-in-law, Dean Weinhold, was involved in that as well.
Right.
And we rolled out this one-on-one model to where you're just with the trainer the whole entire time. You're not sharing the truck with anybody else. And you can do it at your pace, at your time. We know a lot of people that want to get into the trucking field can't afford to take a month, 2 months off to go to school. So we created this training where you can do it during your time and meet the requirements with the ELDT. And we know that you're coming out of our training better than some of our competitors.
And that's awesome. I mean, I believe we're the first one-on-one CDL training school in Pennsylvania.
Yes, correct.
And then, if you've ever seen, CNS driver training centers, search for us on Google, you can see the Google reviews. And there's so many people who just said the program's awesome and, just worked with their needs that they needed. You are one of the testers to get these people to pass. And I'm curious, what do you see in them and sort of the future of trucking through their eyes?
Yeah, absolutely. I do testing. I don't do it as much, obviously, with all the businesses that we got going on, and the staff doesn't, my management team hates when I'm out there testing, but I love it. I want to keep involved. I love the trucking industry, and I don't want it to be, I know you said you're a corporate boy, I don't want to be a CEO that's not hands-on. I try to do as much hands-on as possible, whether that's CDL testing or training or getting involved in an audit. But for the testing, we test people that will go through our training program, go through other people's training programs, and the quality that we're putting out is what I love to see. You're really knowing the parts of the truck. You're really knowing how to back. You're really and you're doing the backing procedures. And I know some schools out there skip over some of that stuff, and I want anyone that's coming through our program, I want to make sure that they're a representation of us and that they are fully qualified to go right in there and to make an impact in their trucking company, a good impact.
Yes. All right, so we were talking about, being approved for being a CDL school, which is amazing, and we've been at this for quite a while now. What was it like before becoming a school certified?
Yeah, so before the ELDT mandate, obviously it was more of a tutoring thing of, we didn't really have a program or anything like that. It was just tutoring drivers to, they learned everything that they had to learn, but it was still on that one-on-one basis model. Right. When ELDT came around, we were already in the part of getting Pennsylvania to be approve our school, but we found contract training with companies was a huge part of our business. So a lot of companies wanted to hire people. They didn't want to go through the ELDT themselves, learning how to do that and become certified and developing all those programs. So we really focused on the contract training until we got to that approval of the school. And we do contract training for hundreds of companies that send their drivers here, or we go on site and use their equipment and train on site with their drivers. It's usually still that one-on-one model. Very few have us do two-on-one for that contract training. But again, they like what we're doing. They're liking how we're training, and we're bringing out a better driver, a better professional driver than our competitors. And that's the whole goal is bringing professional drivers out on the road.
Exactly.
In insurance world, we know the likelihood of a new time driver having an accident in the first year is really, really high. And we're collecting data, and we're not ready to release that data at this point, but we're collecting data to show that that's not happening with our drivers. And it's I'm excited about that because we're just doing it differently and better, I think.
Yeah, and that just reminds me of just I remember one of our articles talking about hey, if you're a hotshot driver, should you get a CDL Class A license or not, and that took off, and just the awareness of not a lot of people were talking about getting a Class A for hotshot trucking, mm-hmm. and that's something that we just quickly jumped on and got a program out there as well.
Absolutely. I mean, hotshot trucking, if you're over 26,001, say F450, 550 with a gooseneck trailer, you're going to need that CDL, that Class A, and there's no company out there that's training that. And there's people that don't want a full 18-wheeler manual Class A training. They just want to do that hot shot and do it well and safe. And we decided to create this program just for them to meet those needs. So that's where we came up with it.
And even if you're driving under 26,000 pounds, maybe that's something you can think about is in the future, I want to expand, grow, change my type of loads. You're going to need a Class A eventually. May as well get it now. And you can check that out on our website. If you are also thinking about like starting a new venture, starting a new company, we have a lot of information. We got a playlist where we're breaking down that new venture process from planning, what you should think about, what you need to do to start off correctly, all the way to moving up to what do you need and how can you handle that first DOT audit that you're required to get 12, 16 months in. But so when I first started, I remember we were basically, CNS was in a glorified strip mall, basically. And again, remembering COVID and during that time frame, very unique location to be at for handling that. But today, now we're in this amazing building, a lot more space, a lot more room for growth and things like that. I'm curious, what was that process like of, wanting to start your own facility, your own site, and I don't know, walk through that.
Yeah. Well, like you said, the strip mall, as we grew, we just kept on getting the next location, vacant location in that mall. And we had, I don't know how many we ended up with. And, we couldn't knock down too many walls or we'd be in trouble. So we were just growing out of that space, Our CDL training was over at my in-laws' farm at that point in time, and that was getting too big for that. So we knew we needed a location, and this location has been on our radar, and we looked at so many places. And again, as a business owner, you're going to go through this. You're going to go through these processes, and it was frustrating at the time because I I would get a location and something wouldn't work out for it. It might be the zoning wasn't right and they weren't willing to change the zoning. It could have been there's just too much effort to go in and remodel a place. And I'm, so glad, a believer in God, and he set up the exact spot for us. Yeah. And that was very, very important because if we would have went with 3 of the locations that we would have, that we thought were the best locations for us, we would have already, by the time that was built, we would have already been outgrown of that. Yeah. So we got the land that we are currently on. It was an old farmhouse. All the other land has been developed around it for years. So it was only 4 acres, and all this industrial for years have been around it. So we got the land several years back, and then just the design process, and we went through so many designs. We're a 2-story building right now. We went through 1 story, and we were only going to do half of it and let the rest of it, open canvas for later. Yep. Well, as we were designing that, we're like, nope, we need the full bottom of that, and then we're saying, okay, the second floor we'll leave open, and
that'll be for potentially other companies to come in, right?
Right.
Think about renting that out.
Right, and glad that we didn't do that because we're already in that second space. And honestly, our CDL, we had lots of room, but we're almost maxed out there as well. Good problems to have, but I feel in this building we have so much more potential to keep that growth. And although we are on the second floor, we still have a lot of vacant spots so that we can grow into.
Sort of moving back to the beginning of the company, it takes good people to make the company successful as well. And we've so many different employees, especially when you first got started. Who were some of those people that you saw, hey, I want you a part of this business, and then made a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to sometimes explain what we all do as a company and how we help the most important industry, I believe, in the United States, because everything moves by trucks. Yes. And and to get that mission statement through all our staff's heads of what we do and why we're doing it was very important to me. Definitely a lot of crucial people along the way that may still be here or may have gone on to better things that have helped. And as we talked earlier too about good partners, a banking partner, I bank with Fulton Bank. That's a very well-known bank, but they help us along the way. From my accounting firm, which is the Waltz Group, and Dan Massey, having some of those connections and people that are invested in seeing this business be a success has been huge. And I know we'll talk about it later, but my wife has been a huge part of the journey and a huge part of my success. And this business's success. Adam Galante, who's a partner, he was there in the fields with me in the restaurant business. He was I think he was a line cook, and then I got him promoted into management, and he helped me go around and fix broken restaurants. And when I left and told him what I was doing, he understood it. He was very supportive. And a year goes by, and he wanted to come on board, and wasn't so sure I was ready to hire him yet because, a young, fragile company. He had a family too, but he just made the jump and kind of said, hey, I'm coming. But he's been a huge part of the business. And you'll see, and a lot of restaurant people that I might have worked with in the past.
So you mentioned Adam. He's the licensing king, as we like to call him here.
Yeah, let's put a picture of him up here.
Put a picture up.
There we go.
There he is. Gorgeous boy. What are some of the other employees that you want to call out?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of time. I'll call out all 70 of them. But no, people that I worked with in the past that we brought over who moved up in the company as we grew. Christopher Keel. Let's put a picture of him up. He's the vice president of business development. You have Jared Klein. I'm not even sure what his title is anymore, but we'll say his old title, client service manager. Put a picture of him up there. And Ron Halls was a competitor, manager at a competitor of ours. But he's now in a controller role for us. Again, I'm very blessed with all the teammates that we have here. There's a lot that keeps this company going, and again, a lot of great connections throughout the years has helped that from the restaurant business to just hiring people that loved what we did and maybe didn't have too much experience in the transportation, but wanted to learn and put that time in to learn to be able to help and make impact in truckers' lives and companies' lives. So
that's awesome. And we've talked about employees, we've talked about partners. The greatest partner is your wife, Melissa. And man, she obviously from the very beginning, lots of different roles that she's played with. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, when we first started this, obviously she was raising our children, and we had several children along the way. I have four kids, 3 boys and 1 girl. Got the girl at the last time. So, that's all taken care of. So, she spent time in the beginning raising our children, and I'm so grateful for that and having that opportunity that she could do that. Yeah. And she's been a huge asset. Just as a sounding board for me, if you're ever going out on your own or you're out on your own, it's lonely at the top and you need somebody to be able to talk to, about good stuff and bad stuff. And, just having that sounding board was great. And she's helped in many different areas from insurance, business development to where she's at right now. And that's the, Chief Human Resource Officer. Right. And does great with that, with keeping our benefits, adding benefits, keeping the team morale high, and bringing in new employees to match our mission statement and to match our energy to make a difference.
So you mentioned obviously DTC, it's growing pains to a point where hey, maybe we need a new facility. We already do things nationally, helping clients all across the United States and Canada. I'm curious, is there what's next for CNS? Is there expansion growth?
Absolutely. I like to think I'm a young guy yet, so that I have a bandwidth to keep doing that. But truly, I have amazing team members around me, and they want to grow, and I want to keep growing. And I just want to keep helping as many transportation companies as possible to stay compliant, to stay in business, to make money themselves, to grow. That's important. Like you said, we do things nationally right now. I mean, we have clients in every state, Canada, Mexico, and, a lot of that's done electronically through technology and phone. We can do licensing, we can do the compliance, we can do audits. Obviously, occupational health, we have the mobile units that we can travel around. We have locations in Delaware. We have a strategic plan to keep the growth going, but it's not necessarily like if we're not in somebody's town that we can't help them, because we can definitely help them. Midwest, we talked about, is big. Chicago is a big area. Florida is a big hub spot in trucking. Texas, Seattle, we have a lot of clients out there. So, those are all potentials. We want to keep growing the training facilities. So, there's so many on the map that it's kind of where it fits right for us and where we, can find land or find a space to do that. Occupational health, we can keep growing the clinics. But, again, we reach a lot of companies just through the mobile units that we have. So growth is, growth is a good thing. We want to do it in a steady way. Right. And, we don't want to overexpand ourselves that we're hurting the customer service aspect of it. So we have to, we plan it out, and it's a strategic plan, and it takes, everybody's excited about it, but it takes months and months to go through and make sure that's done right. Hopefully you'll get some news later on this year for growth. So,
and it's awesome because, we start from very beginning, getting your CDL, starting a business, have a business, growing your business, every aspect of it. And that's
selling your business,
closing your business, that process. But I was curious, as a West Coast boy, I'm happy to hear Seattle But we also know from the West Coast that California is its own country, basically. Is that something ever coming down the pike? A physical location there?
Physical location, California. Yeah, put me on the spot there. You know, California has a lot of their own rules and regulations, and you know, it's not that I'm intimidated because we do a lot of things in California. Yep. Just I like business-friendly states, so I'm just going to say that right now. I know probably a lot of people that are listening feel the same way. So wherever there's business-friendly states, you know, that's probably where we're going to be in.
At least first. I love it. And so obviously, you know, the growth of services, there's a lot of new services that eventually grew over time. And clients, customers, you know, obviously we've been to Matt's years ago. We're going to be at Matt's again this year. So if you're going, check us out, meet us there, say hi. But, you know, especially the early days, you know, audits and clients. Tell me some of those stories. I know there's some road trips involved.
Yeah. So, you know, again, local wise, I cannot thank the local trucking companies and businesses that have stood by us and really helped develop a lot of these services that we do. I mean, it was, you know, because of them that I was like, yeah, let's have a solution for their problem and, you know, make it at a right price point for them and where we can obviously grow as well. So our local community and the local trucking companies really supported us in the beginning and helped us grow. Did I ever think it would be at a national level? You know, I always had it in my brain that that's what we would do. Yeah. Actually, we're international now, but, you know, I know there was probably a lot of doubters that we would ever get there, but we got there in a quick time because we really listened to our clients and what they needed and provided help to keep the federal government off their back, to keep them rolling, whether it's for licensing and insured properly at a great cost. And that was huge for us. So kind of went off on a different tangent, but
good tangent.
I'm sorry about that. So what was the exact question that you said?
Yeah, and so some of the services that we got started, you know, I know there was road trips doing DOT audits. And I know Melissa's role eventually, one of her roles was doing insurance, and you had in the early days handling insurance. And I'm just curious about how those services were started. And
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, when we had customers come up and say, man, you know, you do our fuel taxes, you do all of our licensing, you do our drug and driver files. It would just make sense if you did insurance. So what did I go do? I went and learned from taking classes to other business owners that did insurance that might not have done trucking, but they did insurance where they were able to help me grow and understand all the basics and points. And, you know, I was writing the first policies, and whether it was a single owner operator or a fleet, I think, you know, one of my first or second policies was like a 30 truck operation. And I found so much satisfaction into that because I was able to help trucking companies. You know, they would say, man, my insurance rate has skyrocketed. And I would be able to look at that in the compliance aspect of it and say, okay, well, here's why. This driver and this driver is costing you, you know, $30,000 extra on your insurance. And, you know, they would take them off and hire better drivers who kept the trucks moving, who followed all the rules and regulations. You know, sometimes they get hit. I mean, we all know FMCSA can find a problem on any truck anytime, and we understand that, and insurance understand that, but they weren't making the big violations. And I saved one company $100,000 in their insurance premium. And, you know, they're still a client today, and that was, you know, 10 years ago. And we're still trying to keep saving them money, and that's important for us, but also to make sure that they have the right coverage if an accident happens at the end of the day. So that's satisfaction to me, because I know that company was close to closing its doors, but saving them, getting them with still an A-rated carrier, getting them that compliance piece to keep that insurance premium down year after year really helped them grow as a company and add more trucks throughout the time.
So I'm curious about traveling, going on site to do DOT audits. I'm sure there's some crazy stories there. I've heard, hotel room, single bed hanging, who gets the floor, who gets the bed. But tell me a little bit about that process.
Yeah. So, well, that wasn't an audit. That was a sales call. I'll get to that because, now you brought that up, I feel like it has to be explained. But yeah, again, I credit my wife for, at that time we were 3-4 person show, and I was really heavily doing the audits and doing all that compliance. And I would leave out for a week's time, and, she was with the kids, but, she knew that this was a growing business, and, your business has to grow and has to keep surviving. So, she was great with letting me go and doing those audits. So I did a lot of audits down in Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, all those areas. And there's some, I remember one where it was, I don't know, I just remember it was like dirt roads in Mississippi, and Ryan Ward, who's in our business development, would remember this and laugh at this. But it was, an intersection of dirt roads coming together, and there's like gas station, and just think of, a weird, like, rundown gas station that sells fried chicken out of it. And the guy said it was hot. I just remember it was so hot, and it's probably like 100 degrees. And the guy came in and said, "Hey, let's go in the back of the gas station." I didn't even know he owned it, like, at the time. And we went back past the fryers and back in the refrigerator areas, and that's kind of where we went through all the audit stuff and whatnot. And it was just a very weird scenario because you don't think about that. But yeah, I've been in a lot of different places where you're like, is this really where I'm going? But been at a lot of great trucking companies. And, a lot of times when you get called for an audit, it's scary. Like if I was called for an IRS audit, it would be scary. And I know my tax professional knows that in and out, and I trust them to take care of it. And that's what our clients do to us. So, when I do these audits with FMCSA officers or the state partners, I know what they're going to ask for. And now as we got bigger, our team knows what they're going to ask for and how they look into things, and we're going to be able to, to help. There's some things that we can't change. Like if you didn't do a pre-employment drug test 5 years ago, it is what it is. But we can set a corrective action plan that from that time on, you got them all corrected, and the fines go down. I mean, there's so many different, I don't want to say tricks of the trade, but there's ways to show that you did something wrong.
Yep.
Yes, you can penalize me for it, but there shouldn't be a big fine, or there might be just a one critical violation, and you're still satisfactory and keep going. And we want all of our clients to be satisfactory. Some come to us late,
Right.
Hey, I got called for an audit. They might not have been our client. We're going to help them through that, and we're going to put corrective action plans together. You may get a conditional, you may get it on sat, but we can help turn that around and get you back on the road, without losing a step. So, yeah, a lot of different, traveled all over the United States, all over. I did hazmat training, down in the oil fields in Texas. And for everyone that knows me, I'm not a big burrito fan, but that's all like you could find. It was either that or I think it was Dairy Queen. I don't even know Dairy Queen sold food, but I think I lived off of that for like 3 days of chicken tenders and French fries from Dairy Queen, because I just do not like beans and all that stuff. So yeah, traveled all around. For your story, I know everybody's probably waiting for this story. Is when you're a young company, you're bootstrapped a little bit. We were doing Chris Keel and myself. We were traveling around in the Midwest, meeting potential clients or meeting current clients. And funny thing was, we flew into like a huge blizzard. I believe it was in Minnesota where we did that. And there was like only like a half-hour time frame where we got in and were able to get in. That whole trip has so many stories, and as you grow a business, you're going to come through some funny times, and they're good. It's good reminiscing on those. I remember some of those where We came into this intersection. No one was around, just farmland, but there was a lady in a ditch. We got out, helped her. We pushed her car out of the ditch in the snow, just a blizzard. And she's like, you guys can't drive. You guys can't drive. And she kept on inviting us back to the house. Obviously, we didn't do that. We said we got things to do. But, that was a weird thing. For the one bed story, and I know, and this is a debate, I know we keep debating this. I made the phone call. We were driving at night. We thought we could get to our destination. It just wasn't happening. I called the hotel, and multiple hotels, and no one was had rooms. I called the one hotel, and I said, "Do you have a room?" And they're like, "Yeah, we have rooms." And I said, "Do you have one with double bed, 2 beds?" They said, "Absolutely." Booked that room. We got there. It was really late at night. Got into the room, and there's just one king bed, right? And you're kind of looking at each other like, oh my, what are we gonna do here? So you pull rank.
Yeah,
that's the time I pulled rank, and I was sleeping in the bed, and he was sleeping on the sofa,
couch or something.
The sofa, and he's still mad because he's like, oh, they said one room, and you took it anyways. But that's why we didn't allow him on this podcast, because he would debate me on that. But that's the one bed story. We're gonna laugh about it, and that trip really helped us grow the Midwest, and we have a really good presence out there.
Yeah.
And it was funny because a lot of things funny happened in that trip, and just the snowstorm and a lot of time change stuff that we had to go through with the snow and all that, and but it really helped us grow, and it's funny to look back on.
And since we're in story time, I'm curious. Obviously, trucking industry, truckers are involved in every industry, warehousing, you got log haulers, you got so many different companies that are out there. Some people know, you make a mistake with the rules and regulations. Some maybe actively try to just don't care and find a way around it or ignore it. I'm curious if you have any stories, like worst case scenario of you go in for an audit and you're like, really?
Well, as you know, we had some former officers work for us, after they retired and whatnot, and it didn't happen to me, but it happened to them where, I believe it was down in Mississippi, where the officer kept on trying to get a hold of this gentleman to do an audit. And, he said it was just a routine audit. It probably wouldn't even resulted in anything, but they just kept on stonewalling. And finally, they said, "Listen, we're going to have to put you out of service." And he's like, "I don't want to do that. I don't want to put you out of service. But if we don't have this audit, my hands are tied." And the guy's like, "All right, well, I'm going to come to your office with all my stuff." And the officer, he said, "Yes, that's fine. Come to our office." And I think it was Jackson. And just remember, I gave you the list of everything to bring. Right. And he went through the list. And the guy was like, "Yeah, absolutely. I'll bring all that." He said when he got in there, the secretary said, "The gentleman's in the conference room." And he went in the conference room, and the only thing that was sitting there was a bucket of fried chicken. And nothing else. No driver's list, nothing. No drivers and whatnot. And that's when that whole audit went downhill. Again, these officers have to do their job.
Yeah.
They're not there to try to put you out of business. There's officers that push the limits, and that's what we're here for, is make sure they don't push those limits. But as long as you're complying and you're following the regulation, they're going to leave. They're going to go through that audit, and you might get conditional. You might have to prove that you're getting better or you're following along, or you may just get a satisfactory and they're done. Maybe they won't see you for another 2 years or 5 years, depending on what your alert status is. I don't personally like to work with truckers that don't want to do the rules. If you don't want to do the rules, then might as well not pay us, because we're not going to be able to help you. You're going to have to follow the rules. I will help you, if you need to figure out your load, like how you're going to get that load there legally. Yeah. I will help you do everything possible that you're making money. Like, that's my goal. I love to see our clients grow. And we have many clients that have grown from 1 trucks to, 75 to 100, et cetera. And we help trucking companies that are over 100 trucks, 500, 1,000. There's a way that you can follow the regulation and you can do it correctly. And I know sometimes there's going to be violations, right? There always is. Those we can handle and help you through. But as long as you're trying to make that compliance, meet the compliance, or I try to be proactive. Everything we do is proactive, where you'll never get an audit because you don't have those bad scores and you're not on the FMCSA radar. And you should be making a lot of money.
And I think that's just a great segue. We can wrap it up here. You mentioned proactive safety management is one of the services we have. No matter what fleet size or, if you're small fleet, new venture, short haul, we have programs in place where we can help you handle that safety management proactively. Try to not get in any issue and tackling things ahead of time before the DOT does. We have a video too, John and I chatting about changes. Regulation changes happen all the time. Obviously, ELDs was a big one. Right now, it's the FMCSA talking about the changes to the safety measurement system, which, that has to do with, your CSA scores, and it has to do with, it's going to affect your insurance. It's going to affect your safety ratings and broker relationships and so much more. So you can check that video out. A lot of other great information that we're going to be continuing moving forward. This is just the beginning of our podcast. But John, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. But yeah, I guess you had no choice.
That's right. And stay safe out there.